Carl and Brendan from Games, Brrraains A Head-Banging Life, gbhblofficial.com for sure. And we are doing a track by track for Carcass's hit album. You know, could have charted and been on top of the pops for how popular it was. It's Heartwork. The fourth album by the British extreme metal band, released in the UK through Earache Records on the 18th of October, 1993, and a couple of months later in America, 1994, because, you know, back then we didn't really worry too much about the internet stealing everything. It's the band's only major label release, because it was released on Columbia Records. They were a major label once upon a time, if you remember. I don't. And it's been described as the band's breakthrough album, as well as a landmark album in the melodic death metal genre. I mean, this album, to me, it's no surprises in the sense that if you know Carcass's musical work, particularly latter this, but it's pretty much an album that from beginning to end is thoroughly enjoyable. Like, for me, this is an album where there generally isn't a bad track.
Yeah, I agree. I had this, one of the albums I owned quite early on in my metal youth, this one.
Oh, cool.
Driven by the main sort of single on it. Do you know what I mean? Like, because the title track. But yeah, I had this album. Oh man, I would have been early 90s, whatever. So probably quite early on with it being out. Although I don't know if I would have known that at the time. So yeah, I wouldn't say I'm a long-term Carcass fan, but I'm a long-term Heartwork fan.
Okay, that's quite cool. Quite cool. Certainly not for me that early. All right, let's get into it. Buried Dreams. And it's simple, hell yeah. Starting off strong, the mighty instruments comes crashing down and those riffs sound immense. I'm on board, and man, do I want a headbang. Jeff comes in and his vocals make the track just that much better. This to me is Carcass at their finest, and I love it. It also happens to have a kick-ass guitar solo. It is just a fucking great start.
Same tune, groovy as hell. The drums sound amazing. Vocals are nice and gravelly. Everything just works. Everything's got its place. Probably the closest to being out of place for me on this is actually the solo. While I love the solo, at first the song doesn't flow into it very well. Now it grows into it and it becomes like an amazing solo. Kind of strange there. I guess I'm not trying to be too negative on it, but the solo is a little over flamboyant for the song, I think.
Okay.
You know, for what Carcass are, but you know, I still love it. Don't get me wrong, I think it's fantastic.
Fair enough. Carnal Forge, spitting absolute fire. The increase in speed here is eye-watering, but it's the drop into the guitar solo for me that's where it's at. It's a simple, unrelenting banger.
Yeah, speed's great. Vocals, everything on this song is just pure, like more on the death side. You know, until the guitar solo comes in. You know, it's not my favorite on the album because there are things on it that I've always kind of like not quite liked. Like, so for example, I find that the heavier rhythm section, not the solo bit, but the musical sort of section, to be a little bit disjointed. I love things like when the guitars and the vocals come back in after it. I feel like it could probably have been 30 seconds or a minute shorter, you know, so a good song for me, not a brilliant one.
Cool. All right, No Love Lost. Scathing scarring vocals, guitar riffs that cut deep, percussion that crushes. It's another beastly effort that doesn't quite have as much ferocity as previous stuff. Still slams hard, but it's probably one that I don't love compared to a lot of what's on the other around it.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I like the sort of slower chug to it, and again, solos are great, but that's going to be a common theme across the album, I think. It's got a lot of good stuff going on with it. It's a solid metal track, you know, but I don't think anything particularly special stands out on this one. It's probably the closest on this album, maybe with one other that's like genuine, feels a bit like filler, which is quite strange because it's quite early on, but you know.
No, that's fair. Heartwork, it's the title track, and it's arguably the most famous track. It's also easily the most accessible, which is hilarious because when you listen to it, you're kind of reminded that it is a very nasty death metal number nonetheless. It just happens to be disgustingly catchy. I love it. I've heard it many, many times. And I wanted to highlight like the part that's I've loved more than anything else, which is Jeff's vocals as he builds towards the tempo shift and the fucking fire and the way he spits. It's just brilliant.
It is an amazing song, absolutely brilliant. It's the band like hitting the right point all at the right time, you know, like oh shit, look back at that in 30 years time, like we made Heartwork.
Yeah.
You know, I think the guitars are amazing, obviously, because that's really the accessible part of it, isn't it? It's the melody. But outside of the melody, and that's what I love about it, the fact that it's managed to do all that, but it doesn't sacrifice heaviness in the song. Like it's not like Carcass have put out a ballad or anything like that. You know, you've got some cool melodies followed up by some absolute assaulting, like vicious verses, you know, yet somehow it's managed to become accessible, which is just amazing. You know, yeah, it's a brilliant track, absolutely brilliant. Love it.
Yeah, no arguments here. Embodiment and Take a Breath, sort of, as the initial drop in tempo is welcome, but the guitar squills are quite ear-splitting. This is a track that sounds so damn heavy and our weight increases as it goes on, especially with the extra pep that comes and goes. I find myself really invested in the instrumentation here, and the fucking guitar solo slays. This ended up being me thinking, this might be my new favorite Carcass track, because I wasn't that familiar with it.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a very, very good song. It's got great riffs, good rhythm. For me, this one, I guess maybe I felt it struggled a little bit purely because of coming after Heartwork, so it doesn't kind of catch you as obviously. But until it gets near the end, when the pace starts lifting up, so it comes away from that sort of more rhythmic section, it starts getting faster and faster. Yeah, and actually pointing out instruments and stuff, while I do agree that the guitars are great, for me, the drums on a lot of these songs, but on Embodiment in particular, are just like out of this world.
Yeah. This Mortal Coil. Kick-ass drumming in this one, as you just said. I mentioned the drumming here. Kick-ass drumming in this one. And again, riffs are just fantastic. It's another amazing vocal performance. This one has a speed metal flavor, which marks it out as being a bit different while still being quite savage.
Yeah, this is one of my favorites. You know, heavy melodic start with crazy guitars firing off in all different directions, strong drums, strong vocals, great guitaring. Got that kind of stampeding horse groove going on, and like a bit of a tempo switch at the end, which is also cool as fuck. So yeah,
interesting.
Love that one.
All right, Airbet Marched Fleisch. As straightforward as it gets. It's a savage blast to the face, death metal 101. Nothing wrong with it. It's enjoyable, but nothing too complex here either.
Yep, nice and heavy song, of course, but then I guess they're all going to be.
Yeah.
Drums are great. You'll say the same things all the time. Drums are great. Great riff. Nice bit of pace to this one as well, with little guitar flourishes here and there, which I've always kind of like in a song anyway. There's a nice instrumental ending, and again, the drums really sound fantastic in that too. So another good solid song.
Yeah, sometimes it just goes this way where we've got an album which is predominantly in one style all the way through, and it just becomes that thing where we focus and go over and over again, the riffs, the drums, and all that. It's what's good. What else are we supposed to say? Blind leading the blind. I really enjoy the guitar wankery here. There's flourishes and back and forth and stuff like that. The growl that announces the arrival of the vocals made me laugh, not because I thought it was shit or cheesy. It's just the fact that there was this kind of noise before they've come in fully. And the song has this uneven tempo that for me was kind of a major selling point. It kept me on edge and quite exciting, because particularly as I knew I was getting to the end of the album, I was wondering if I was just going to get a bit bored with death metal, Carcass death metal over and over again. So this one kind of kept it fresh.
Yeah, this is another, like, one of my absolute favorites on the album, actually. I think it's interesting, it's different, and it's probably a welcome bit of something different. It's not so different that it's like Carcass have taken a mad diversion either. It's just, you know, they play around with pace and tones a little bit and make it stand out, you know, just freshen things up. So I like the stop-start nature of the track. I like that quite a lot. The drums because of the breaks in it, it gives the drums these little moments, just like another extra little moment to shine as they kind of fill the gaps. Nice pick up at the end too, where it kind of picks the pace back up and then ends with a really fiery solo. So yeah, very, very strong metal.
And it's going to stay that way as we hit doctrinal expletives. Crunchy and hard hitting. It's a strong but short guitar solo thrown in there as well. I really like the energy of this track.
Same. Another strong song, nice and heavy, of course. Another great solo, more great drumming. Probably doesn't stand out, I guess, up against the best songs on the album, but it's still very, very good. You know, it's like it's very good filler, if at worst, you know.
Yeah, particularly as it's the penultimate track, which leads us to the finale of Death Certificate, and it's a frenzy of death and destruction to simply close out the album. The pace is out of this world. Carcass are on fire, simply ending and beginning their album in the same level of fury. Savage finish to a savage album.
Yep. And again, pretty much the same thing. So great riffs, love the solos, drums are great, vocals are strong. I love the chugging kind of more rhythmic section in it, which you just can't help but bang your head along to. Generally, I think I wrote a strong ending track on an album full of top quality metal. So.
These sort of track by tracks aren't always the most interesting when we're so agreeable and just pretty much saying, yeah, banger, 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 banger. But it is what it is. It's a banger album.
Yeah.
Top three tracks then.
I'm going to have, obviously, Heartwork, This Mortal Coil, and Blind Leading the Blind. Bleeding the Blind, sorry.
Yeah, okay. Well, Heartwork as well, but I've gone for Buried Dreams and Embodiment as my three. Although I could easily have Blind Leading the Blind in there. That'd be the next one, I think, if I followed along, like we do more than three.
Yep.
Good album. It's just a good album.
Yeah, it is. I don't know if they...
let us know in the comments. Thank you very much for watching. You can check us out on gbhbl.com as well as on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter and Tumblr. Go to Patreon to help us out over there. That's patreon.com/gbhbl, as well as Big Cartel, where you can find some of our merchandise. We have a podcast running on SoundCloud and Apple Podcasts. And of course, if you like this video, do us a favor, hit the subscribe button and help the channel grow. Games, horror and heavy metal. What else is life for?